Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar. We're going to begin in just a minute or so. We've got about 52 people that are online right now, but we've got a number that have registered. So we're going to give those people that registered another minute to log on. So bear with us. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar. Really appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully everyone is weathering the situation that we're currently under with social distancing and home quarantining. It's a good opportunity, though, for everyone to basically enjoy these webinars and learn a little something from them. So you signed up for the webinar to actually see a live demonstration of Kubernetes Log Analytics. Doing log analytics is just one part of the solution that ChaosSearch provides. We represent ourselves in the marketplace as a data lake engine for cloud object storage. Essentially, what we allow our customers to do is take their S3 cloud object storage and turn it into a fully searchable analytic data lake. So I'm going to spend just a minute or so going through some of our value propositions and how some of our customers are using us, and then we'll go right into the Kubernetes Log Analytics demonstration. So just by way of company overview, and before I get into the company overview, I neglected to mention who I am, so I apologize for that. My name is Tom O'Connell. I'm responsible for the sales and business development group here at ChaosSearch. With me today is Kevin Davis. Kevin is a senior director of solutions architect, and he'll be the person actually giving the demonstration. So ChaosSearch, the company, was founded just about 4 years or so ago. We're headquartered in Boston, and we're centrally located there. So all of our engineering, development, customer success, and support are all handled out of our Boston office. We are a SaaS technology company. What I mean by that is we've developed this search and analytic capability, and we deploy it as a SaaS offering. Later in the year, we're actually going to have it deployed in a customer's VPC environment, but today it's only deployed in our environment, going against data that resides in your object storage. The technology is extremely unique and innovative, in so much as we've actually applied for 3 patents, and we're very close to having all 3 of those patents filed. You'll see as we go through the demonstration, we talk a lot about S3. We are an AWS business partner, and today we support the AWS ecosystem environment, but down the road we'll be supporting GCP and Azure in a later release. So this is actually where we fit for our customers and the value that we provide our customers. What we do see specifically with the log and analytics, marketplace is that customers are wrestling with the elk stack or using Elasticsearch at scale. Everyone thinks that just going out and downloading an elk environment, it's a low-cost way to actually have a log and analytics solution, and it is when the scale is very, very small. But as data grows, and we all know that everyone's data volumes are growing, not decreasing, as data volumes grow, the elk stack becomes increasingly more difficult to actually manage, specifically at scale. When you get into terabyte scale data, it's very, very costly, falls over weekly, if not a daily basis at some place, and it requires a lot of engineering effort to actually keep the elk stack up and running. ChaosSearch provides an answer to those issues. We deliver our solution as a service, so we provision and manage the environment on your behalf. It's exceptionally low cost. Price per gigabyte of daily ingestion is significantly less than what you'd find with any elk stack out there or Elasticsearch derivative on the marketplace. And we provide unlimited data retention. Because we're actually able to go against the data that resides in your S3 environment, you can grow that S3 environment as large as you want, and we can index and search all of the data that resides within that environment. Before we get into the actual demonstration, I want to provide some fundamental principles that we build our technology on. We have a fundamental feeling that object storage should be home-based for all of your data. So everything should reside within S3. It can be as small a data lake or as large a data lake as you'd like, but the underlying principle that we have is that data should not move from one environment to another. It should all reside within S3 object storage or object storage in general, and it should all be accessible. So today we're going to be showing, accessing log data, Kubernetes data, but in reality, it can be any type of data that resides within S3, and we make it searchable and give you the ability to analyze it. As I mentioned a couple of times already, what we've done is we've separated compute from storage. So as a SaaS vendor, what we do is we provision EC2 on your behalf and provide you a Kibana user interface to actually search all of the data that resides in your S3 environment. So the data never moves from your environment into our environment. You always own the data. This is a little, it's a simplified view, if you will, of our what we call our data access pipeline. But on the left-hand side, on step one, you see the types of data sources. So whether it be logs or marketing data or IoT data from devices, our philosophy is to use one of the transfer mechanisms or software solutions that are out there, like Logstash, Fluentd, or Kafka, to actually get data into S3. Once that data is into S3, what we do is we index that data on your behalf, and we provide you a Kibana user interface to actually search on that data. So today we're going to be showing a solution, Kubernetes, that's really conducive for DevOps and SecOps, but it's a very simplified data access pipeline. Step one, stream the data into S3. Step two, we take it from there where we discover, index the data on your behalf. And then step three is, if you're a DevOps or a SecOps team member, we provide you the ability to search and analyze that data. It's very, very different than the solution that we see in a traditional deployment environment, like what you see on the left-hand side. And this was taken directly from an AWS documentation. You see how complex on the left-hand side a traditional deployment is. We've got a philosophy of addition by subtraction. So our view is that you have to take out all of the components that are hindering the performance of your solution and really simplify that. So on the right-hand side, you see a deployment for ChaosSearch, which is very, very simple, as I explained. It's basically getting your logs into S3. We index those logs on your behalf. We put the indices back into S3, and then we provide you a Kibana user interface to search and analyze that data. Extremely, extremely simplified. Hopefully that provided you a little bit of an overview of what we do and the value we provide our customers. At this point in time, I'm going to hand it over to Kevin Davis, and Kevin is going to go a little bit deeper into the solution via demonstration.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Tom. And also joining us today to help walk through the demo with me is our VP of Solutions Architecture and Customer Success, Dave Armlin. So Dave's going to be joining us and again helping provide some feedback where he works directly with our customers, especially the ones that are running Kubernetes environments and having ChaosSearch analyze and index all that data. So one of the kind of first steps in getting ChaosSearch set up and configured is allowing us access to the appropriate S3 bucket or buckets of your choosing. And really, it's extremely simple. Anybody that uses and is familiar with AWS, all you'll have to do is configure an IAM role and policy. And then in that policy, that'll define the appropriate read-write access that we have. And during that read-write access, what we're doing is indexing your data, and then as Tom had mentioned, writing those indices directly back into your S3 bucket, and then allowing you to search and build visualizations, alerting on all of that data itself. So from there, once we have that IAM access already set up and configured, then we can go ahead and start working with that specific S3 bucket that we have configured here. So from that point, what we'd do is we create all these different object groups. And object groups to us are really just virtual filters on like formats and data sources. And from there, once we create those object groups, we can start, again, analyzing that data, transforming it within our data refinery, and then creating alerts on that data as well. Dave, any kind of thoughts on how our customers are getting their data into S3 and kind of the different approaches those customers take that you've seen?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Kevin, and great to be with everybody today. You know, in the Kubernetes case, I think the most typical model we're seeing is the Fluentd configuration, where you're pushing directly to the S3 bucket with the Fluentd output to S3. Now, that's not to say that you can't use other mechanisms. I certainly know that FileBeat and Beats from Elastic can push to Logstash, which also has an output to S3. So harkening back to what Tom said, if you can get the data to S3, we'll index it and provide query capability. But for Kubernetes, we're seeing Fluentd kind of winning the battle there now, and it's very easy to configure in your Kubes cluster and push directly to S3.
Awesome. And once we go ahead and initiate that create object group function, from there, we'll have a couple of different ways that we can group these files together. One is certainly by the prefix. As you saw, I entered in the Kubernetes path into my cluster logs that I'm sending those example Kubernetes logs to. And then at that point, I've grouped all of those Kubernetes logs together. I can also utilize this regex filter here and group things based off of the specific clusters themselves. So if I only want to focus on my bears cluster and create an object group for that, I have the ability to do so, or I can continuously add to this prefix filter as well. The other option is to utilize the object filter advanced feature, where you can set up object level tagging grouping based off the key value pairs. So some of our customers take the approach of doing things with either prod or staging, or again by cluster if that's how they're tagging those objects. But really, you know, a number of different ways to group these files together, start indexing them, and then making use of them immediately. Dave, is there a common approach that you see from our customers on how they set these object groups up? Is it based on the entire cluster, or is it per cluster that they take the approach with?
I've seen a little bit of both, and you know, we're fortunate that you can be flexible there for folks that are deploying multiple clusters. You have that capability, but you know, either or is an option.
Awesome. So immediately, our system will go ahead and it'll detect the appropriate format that we're working with. And one of the unique things with our technology is, as we're going through and indexing this data, we'll actually normalize the schema for you and auto detect and add those new fields dynamically as they become present. So whether it be CSV format, log format, and certainly JSON being the most popular that Kubernetes is logged in, we'll be able to immediately start working with that data, give you the option to define flattening depths as well. So if you have arrays, sibling arrays, nested arrays, and you want to break those out into their own independent fields, you'll have the ability to do so by setting that to unlimited, or you can work with any of the additional flattening depths as well. And then for compression, any of the objects that you're sending up to S3, if they're already compressed in a gzip format, there's no need to go in and uncompress those. The system will do that naturally during the indexing process. And then from there, we can go ahead and give this object group a name. We can set up our live indexing process. So that state today is actually quite simple. What you do is you create an advanced notification option on the S3 prefix, and then from there, that'll send a message to an AWS S3 queue. ChaosSearch will have the rights to read directly from that queue, and as new objects are put into S3, our system will automatically go, receive that message, index that object, and make those available for search and visualization as soon as it's needed. And then we're also coming out with our real-time component as well. Dave, I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, the real-time element will be exciting in that, our live indexing, will allow you to get data freshness in about a minute. But with real-time, you'll be able to push data and have it indexed immediately into Chaos. And we'll be doing that by implementing the bulk API from Elasticsearch. So things that support, like Logstash, for example, that support the bulk API, will be able to put directly to ChaosSearch and make that data even available quicker than the live indexing feature.
And then from there, you also have the ability to set up and define retention policies. As Tom had mentioned, one of the key benefits of ChaosSearch is having access to unlimited data for as long as you want to keep it around. Here, the retention policy concept is really just defining anything outside of that time period that you configure. The system will automatically rotate out those old daily indexes that we create and make sure that you're only keeping index data around as long as you should and making that accessible and searchable for your users. But again, something that's not needed or required, just an added feature for some of our customers that have GDPR concerns or specific security and compliance needs as well. So once I go ahead and create that object group, I can start that indexing process. And then from there, we'll go ahead and we'll build out the mappings in that index structure for you automatically. So you'll start to see us define all these different field names, associate the appropriate types for you. And then again, we'll continuously add to this index structure as new fields continuously get added in there. Some of our customers have, something very simple where it's, a column count of 23 or up to 100. Others are sending us really, really sparse schema with, is crawling up into the thousands. And, again, it's, us managing that for you, us building that index structure. There's no sharding, there's no replication that needs to be managed or configured. All of that is naturally done directly in the application itself. So from there, once we've created our object group, we can take a couple of different approaches. One is certainly moving into the Refinery. We can also move directly into the analytics section, which is our version of Kibana. So the Refinery allows for a couple of different kind of approaches. One is to take, again, if we create and take the approach in the storage section of defining an object group per cluster, the Refinery will allow us to take those two independent object groups and stitch them back together. We also have the ability to do schema transformation. So if you're running any heavy ETL jobs or glue scripts, there's no need to continuously have that up and running, especially if you're using something like Logstash or FluentD to do some of the pre-processing, and then shipping that to S3, have ChaosSearch pick it up, and then from there we can do additional transformations on that. So what we can do is select either one or two object groups. We can even include some of our AWS logs if we want. For right now, we'll just select one object group. And then from there, we can go ahead. We can take a look at any of the additional fields that we want to transform, but that's something we'll come back to later. We also have the ability to make this object group case insensitive. So if you do want to make a better user experience for some of your end users that's going to be consuming the data, then we'll have the ability to remove case sensitivity, and that way they don't have to worry about the structure of the searches that they're executing. And then the last piece, for anybody that's familiar with and working with an ELK cluster today, we can define a timestamp just like we would in our index pattern. And then from there, we can go ahead and give this a name. Create that. And what's unique about this is even though we created and gave that object group a Kubernetes name, in here, what we're doing in the Refinery is we're creating a view on that physical index. And that's something, again, that we're going to explore a little bit more in a few minutes. But say, for instance, we have that original index that we've created. We've now associated that index pattern and timestamp. So we can work with that immediately here in the analytics section. Our version of Kibana is the latest version from the Open Distro open source project, which is 7.4.2. So a lot of the functionality that you probably have today with your own versions of Kibana, you'll have available to you. On top of that, with this version, we have alerting as well as our role-based access control. Dave, I don't know if you want to talk to some of the role-based access control and alerting that our customers are doing today and have configured.
Yeah, sure. So we're very excited to be embedding the Amazon Open Distro and inheriting a lot of that great functionality, alerting being one. So you can set specific thresholds on whether it's an application-based response time or that type of thing, and then through webhooks you can call out to things like Slack or PagerDuty and that type of thing, and that's embedded right in here, and it's driven off of queries like Kevin is showing right now. So that type of alerting use case is pretty common with our customers now. And additionally, the roles-based access control, we have, our architecture, as Tom and Kevin have alluded to a little earlier, we separate the customer's S3 environment from the ChaosSearch service. So with that IAM role, we have the additional ability to kind of wall off and provide access to what people can see in the user interface, as well as what storage gets presented. So we're doing both of those things in the field now with customers, and Kevin can show you a little bit more about the query aspects now.
Yeah, so from here, I mean, it's your typical Kibana. We have added a few different enhancements for our customers, one being this query progress bar. So as I execute a query, I'll actually see how that query is progressing. And then I'll also have the ability to cancel a query at any point too. So if I misconfigure either the search syntax or if I misconfigure the time period that I'm searching over, then I can go ahead and update that or cancel it at any point without having that query continuously run, bring down my cluster, and potentially cause some more pain than what's actually needed. From there, we can drill into the specific documents themselves. We can see all the different pieces of information. We can filter on any of these specific pieces of information as well. And then for searching, in the event that I want to take a look and search at or for specific pieces of information, so we'll say here this cloud provider AWS. If I go ahead and add that information in, then what I'll have to do is do that type of wildcard search to pull that information out. You can see that it's pretty much all AWS logs because that's the main cloud provider that I'm working with. But what if I didn't want to create these large wildcard searches? I wanted to actually take this command line information or this host information or message information and transform it. That's exactly what a lot of our customers do. And I know we have one customer in particular that's joined us today from our company called Transio, who's doing a lot of these transformations in the refinery that we're going to walk through. Dave, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about their use case and what they're solving for.
Yeah, no, nice to give a shout out to Jimmy McDermott, the CTO of Transio. He embraced our regex capability and ability to create essentially virtual columns using the regex for a transformation. So he was able to take a fairly unstructured log line that came from his application and parse it and break it up into distinct virtual columns. And again, this is happening after indexing has taken place. So you can create these virtual columns which appear in Kibana as if they're native columns and do aggregation and everything you normally would on a traditional Kibana index through these virtual columns that you break up as you are now with regex.
Yeah, and I mean, as everyone can see, it's pretty flexible, pretty unique, where I can just simply drop in my regex, add those additional fields that I want to include, and then once I get my last field added, I can go ahead and apply a refresh and see exactly how this will slice up my data, those new fields that I'll create and I'll have available. Oh, what did I do here?
And while you're tweaking that, Kevin, I think it's important to note, with traditional Elasticsearch, if you're adding fields or adding data, you get a reindex. In our world, we index everything, and then you have the power of this post-materialized world to create essentially different virtual lenses into the data at the column level and at the index level. Our Refinery is allowing you to do all that and present out, yet another abstraction, another index that you have, a wide ability to alter after the fact. And with that, we'll say the performance of all of this is also is fantastic. And that's at scale. We have customers that are ingesting many terabytes a day, and we're showing some example data now. But the data that we're ingesting, both JSON and CSV, both compressed and uncompressed, is can scale very, very big.
Awesome. Thanks for the save there, Dave. We'll see if it actually worked.
Nice.
Nope, I messed something up in the regex. Oh well.
Well,
what we can do though is to prove that it actually does work is we'll go ahead and select one of our AWS logs. So here, if I take one of my ELB object groups, I can grab that information, and actually we'll work with this one because it's already transformed. And from there, I'll go ahead and grab my handy dandy regex. And then we'll take that URI stem field, and then we'll transform that and add our new fields here. So from that point, once I add that regex in, those new materialized fields, I'll take that one field of the URI stem, chop that up into 3 new fields that I can now search on, and then allow different users to consume that data differently. And again, it's still only on one physical index or object group that we've created. There's no multiple object groups that we need to maintain or manage. There's no additional hardware or infrastructure that we need to manage, document pieces of information that we need to manage. It's all done through those materialized fields and immediately available, both for historical logs that have already been indexed and any new logs that are coming through that are inheriting that behavior as well. And then from there, we'll have that one field, that URI stem that we were working with those 3 new fields where, again, we can now filter on, we can search on that data and do with it what we like, and then create those different visualizations as well as dashboards. One of the more popular ones with our customers, specifically around Kubernetes, is this Kubernetes dashboard that we have available for our users.
Now, Kevin, just a little bit of a editorial on customers are with Kubernetes have typically been looking at application related logging so far with our customer base, but certainly there's a wide variety, as you can see, that the data that's come through in this dashboard that you can harvest and do alerting on relative to actual clusters and pods and the data that you're getting from those logs. All of that's available to you that can be streamed in from FluentD into S3 or Logstash or pick your transport.
Dave, that's a very good point. I mean, this shouldn't be considered a logging tool. This is really an enterprise search tool where, to Dave's point, get any kind of data that you want within S3, we'll index it and make it searchable. So don't think of us as a logging vendor. You should really think of us as an enterprise search vendor with a solution that is deployed as a software as a service.
Yeah, that's great. And that actually leads into a lot of the questions that we have. One of them specifically is around, can somebody run ChaosSearch on-prem for their applications on VMware, forwarding or using FluentD to forward to S3. So as Tom had mentioned at the beginning of the call, we are coming out with our VPC deployment option, where you can run ChaosSearch within your own AWS VPC environment. And then from there, just as you alluded to, as far as the pipeline goes, utilize FluentD to ship to S3 and then have all that information available, indexed without having to manage multiple ELK clusters, and again, have to worry about sharding, replication of data, so on and so forth.
And we're just a little,
Go ahead,
I'm sorry. No, I was just going to say a little bit more color to that. We're actually not that far away. So Kevin said it's going to be out in the future. It literally is probably 30 to 60 days away. So if it is important to you to run this technology in your own environment, your own VPC, we should probably start having conversations today.
And with that, Tom, I was also just going to add, get those conversations started for sure. But certainly, if you want to try the service out, if you stream that data from the on-prem app through FluentD out to S3, you could see how the service works with the current on-prem app streaming into it. But certainly, get in a conversation started with our team relative to VPC. It's going to be exciting.
That's a great point. Thanks, Dave.
One of the other questions is around our pricing. Tom, I don't know if you want to take this one, but it's basically asking, what is our pricing model look like, and are there different option tiers? What do I get with those?
Yeah, so we like to say we have value-based pricing. So, and it's not one size fits all. So we price based upon the amount of daily data ingest. So I'll use a terabyte as an example. If you're a customer and you're doing a daily data ingest of a terabyte per day, the price for that would be $20,000 per month. So it's a relatively inexpensive solution when you compare it to other vendors on the marketplace. And the reason I say it's value-based pricing and one size does not fit all is because you can scale that up as high as you'd want. We've got customers, as David mentioned, doing multi-terabytes per day. I think our largest customer to date is doing 25 terabytes per day, or you can scale that down. So it can be as elastic as you need it to be based upon your daily data ingest.
Awesome. And one other question that we got, Dave, I don't know if you want to handle this. It's around customers specifically, but with the FluentD option, do we help kind of provide support on best practices and configuration on setting up FluentD, and how involved do we get with our customers?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. We FluentD is quite easy to configure, but we certainly are here, both in the pre-sales and post-sales roles. We make sure that customers have things flowing into the S3 bucket from FluentD or whatever transport mechanism you want to achieve. Sometimes we help people clean up how they might be doing some transformations in FluentD. A lot of that also we have power within the product too. So as people kind of get engaged with us in the trial process, through the purchase process, we see it kind of as a consultative thing. So we want to make sure you're doing the right things with the product and seeing success. So big fans of the FluentD product. There are certainly many ways to skin that cat, but we're here to help.
Awesome. Well, it looks like those are all the questions that we have, and we're a little bit over on time. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Dave, thanks for jumping in and providing a lot of the good feedback on how our customers are utilizing the platform, specifically with Kubernetes. And as always, if there's any questions, you can go to chaossearch.io and check out Dave's recent blog post on Kubernetes, as well as the new release on some of the white papers that we've come out with, especially around the new data lake engine that we announced today. Thanks, everyone, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.